Joining me now is John Brennan, former director of the CIA and an MSNBC senior national security and intelligence analyst. Director Brennan, how to explain the Kremlin sanctioning, Rachel Maddow and Joe Scarborough and Letitia James and Jack Smith, et cetera?
Well, Joy, I think this is a very brazen and very public display of affection on the part of Vladimir Putin toward his fellow autocrat buddy, Donald Trump. It is clear that these individuals have no bearing sort of on Russia policy whatsoever, but they have been clearly selected because they have been adversaries and very outspoken adversaries of Donald Trump. And so I think this is Russia and Putin's way of demonstrating that he is going to continue to support Donald Trump and his efforts to try to reclaim the presidency. Because I think Vladimir Putin is counting on Trump returning to the White House so that Putin's debacle in Ukraine can be brought to an end in favor of Russia. And I think that's what he's hoping is going to happen if Donald Trump does return to the White House.
Can we put that list back up? Breitbart, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert. I mean, these are people who are, commentators, comedians, of course, journalists, Rachel Maddow. It is a strange list, you're right. And it feels like he is just simply trying to send a message to Donald Trump. Hey, buddy, I support you. It is surprising to me that has not been hung on Donald Trump, that there hasn't been a louder cry of, doesn't this prove that you're Putin's guy? Are you surprised that there hasn't been a louder uproar about the fact that he's getting such brazen open support from someone who helped him before?
Well, Joy, what I'm really surprised at is over the past several years, it seems as though Vladimir Putin's standing among Americans, and specifically within the MAGA base, has risen. And therefore, I think what he's doing now, Putin, is trying to signal to that MAGA base that there is this kindred spirithood between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. And so I do think that Putin is not only trying to send a message to Donald Trump that he's going to do what he can to get him back into the White House, but also sending a signal to the MAGA base that he, Vladimir Putin, is somebody that they should continue to respect and admire. And unfortunately, I find it hard to believe in this day and age, particularly after the bloody assault and plundering of Ukraine, that any American would look favorably upon Vladimir Putin. But unfortunately, many Americans, just the way they were looking at Donald Trump as a favorite strongman, I think they looked at Vladimir Putin the same way.
Here. It is shocking, but yeah, absolutely, clearly true. Here's Donald Trump during that rather embarrassing CNN town hall, embarrassing for the network, but apparently really great for him, being unable to simply say what should be obvious, that Ukraine ought to win this war.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people.
Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying.
I mean, my fear is that it doesn't almost matter. Well, there are a couple of Republicans that are running that don't seem to be as bad, but the main MAGA ones, they've already signaled, DeSantis signaled and others, that Ukraine would lose support from the American White House if one of those Republicans won, most of them. Does that concern you?
Yes, it does. And I do think Vladimir Putin is just trying to hold on until November of 2024. Because if he can hold on in this war of attrition on the battlefield and Donald Trump is reelected, I think it's going to send a shockwave through NATO countries, first of all. And secondly, Donald Trump as president could do a lot to curtail U.S. support for Ukraine. He could cut off the intelligence support, training, other types of things. And he could bring a halt to a lot of the weapon flows that are going into Ukraine. So I do think that Vladimir Putin, who has his back against the wall, his one hope is that there's going to be a change of leadership in the United States, one that is more favorable to Moscow and to Putin. And when Trump at a town hall said he would bring it to a close, the war to a close in 24 hours, I think he was signaling to Putin that the way he's going to bring it to a close is that he's going to bring a quick halt to the type of support that we've been providing to President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people.
Yeah, let him annex Ukraine. It would be seemingly his strategy. I have to ask you this on another subject. There was an AI-generated hoax today that simulated an explosion at the Pentagon. This thing went viral today. This is the thing that scares a lot of folks, including myself, about AI. It caused, it caused a panic briefly on Wall Street. We do not have our arms around this, Director Brennan, right? I mean, the damage that can be done by something like this, a hoax like this, especially, on Twitter, that's in the hands of a MAGA Republican who's swatting people for fun, that makes, to me, it doubly scary. What about you?
Yeah, well, AI is one of these technological wonders that clearly can do a lot of things that are going to be beneficial to humankind, but it's a double-edged sword. And those individuals who are trying to disrupt our lives can do immeasurable harm by utilizing the capabilities of AI in a manner that really, again, undermines our safety, our security, and our psychology. Because, as you point out, these things get into the viral stream, and it will have repercussions. And so this is something that I agree with you. We have not come to grips with all the implications of it, how we're going to try to ensure that it doesn't, in fact, lead to chaos, which I think a lot of individuals, whether they be foreign actors or domestic actors, those who are just trying to be disruptors, can use AI to achieve their aims.
I wish that we had a Congress that would spend less time trying to ban TikTok and doing fake weaponization of government hearings and more work on this, because this is the stuff they actually could make an impact on. Former CIA Director John Brennan, thank you very much.